Hey bestie, it's time for your next session of Real Talk Friend Therapy with your favorite big sister auntie queen, Daysha Veronica. Hey y'all, welcome back. I hope you're having a fabulous week so far. We actually just had a full moon in Libra, and if you're not familiar with that sign, it is a sign that is associated with the traits of balance, harmony, and fairness, hence, the whole scales imagery for the sign when you look it up. It's a sign that is ruled by the planet Venus, which is all about love and beauty and femininity and justice. And so in addition to those other qualities, Libras are also known for being very sociable and charming and, just enjoying the beauty that life has to offer. And I bring this up because this was a very potent full moon we just had on April 12th, because Venus, which is, again, Libra's natural ruler, just went direct after being retrograde for the last couple of weeks on this full moon. And full moons in a regular astrological context are all about culminations. They are the climax and falling resolutions of journeys that we begin or initiate during new moons. And it's usually about a three and a half week journey between a new moon and a full moon. It's why they say the best time to sow your seeds of manifestation or to set goals is at new moons. So full moons are known for helping to bring closure, to bring answers, or the next step for the journeys that we embark on at the new moon. And this Venus retrograde, if you remember from the episodes I released in March, Venus retrograded in the same sign it was in 7 years ago when the Me Too movement took off in the zeitgeist. And it was a moment, if you remember, it was a moment in time where women were finally demanding justice for our culture's blind eye towards sexual harassment and assault. So one of my favorite astrologers, she's been talking about this on our podcast, and how this repeating transit is here to remind us that there is still so much to reckon with when it comes to not just the Me Too movement, but also womanhood and sisterhood. And again, what does it mean to be a girl's girl in 2025 and beyond? What does it mean to be in community with other women? Or when I think about last week's episode, what does grace look like within our marginalized communities? When do we give it? How do we truly embrace the ways we are different, but still work together to advance our collective needs? I know some of you skeptics out there are going to think what I'm saying is a coincidence, but I just find it really interesting that Mike White just happened to release The White Lotus, which, if you haven't been watching, it features 3 actresses that I think give such a interesting insight into what female friendship looks like and how it has been functioning. And I used to work with a spiritual healer who would always say that there's no such things as coincidences. So I know so many of you are going to be like, Daysha, but like The White Lotus was already planned to be scheduled to be released at this time. But I'm just saying, for it to have come out and to have such a deep commentary on female friendships during a Venus retrograde, but I hear you. One of the reasons why I love astrology so much is that there is so much depth and beauty and insight that it can offer us to the current moment and how we can think about moving through it. For example, everyone has a birth chart that is basically a snapshot of the sky when you were born, and it captures where all the different planets were when you were born. And while popular culture emphasizes your sun sign, which is the sign that is based on the day you were born, so it's basically, when we talk about astrology, we are often just talking about your sun sign. And we are starting to see the emergence of your moon sign and your rising sign come into pop culture. There is still so much more to your birth chart and how astrology can give you insight into who you are and how you process. And so I say all this to say that within my birth chart, Libra is my 12th house, and again, layers, y'all. So I will have to explain the houses in another episode. But for the purposes of your ability to understand right now, everybody has, when we talk about the snapshots in the sky, there are 12 houses that the sky is broken up into. And those 12 houses represent the 12 different signs of the zodiac. And within all of those signs lives certain planets. And so everyone has a 12th house, and it is the house that represents your subconscious. house or your shadow self. It's the stuff that secretly influences your behaviors and actions, like trauma and past hurt, but it is often known for being the stuff that is really hard to bring to the surface because of the pain that it causes you. And so this sign, along with certain planets that occupy your 12th house, can give you unique insights into how you might approach those themes that occur in the 12th house. So for me, this was a particularly sensitive time, as I felt the universe definitely brought me face to face with tender spots in my life that made me remember where I still have healing to do. And you know what's so funny? Now I'm thinking about it, I could not have planned this episode any better, because today's guest is not only one of my close friends, but she's also a Libra. And we definitely had such a fun time going down memory lane and breaking down how we became friends. If you're new to the podcast, Why Are We Friends is a recurring series where I interview my own friends to break down how we decided to be friends. I'm always hearing adults say how hard it is to make friends now that we're older, and so I wanted to explore with my own friends what were those magical key elements that existed in our relationship that made us want to be friends, so that you all can try and replicate those elements for yourselves. So my relationship with Rachel started in high school, and I actually learned from a younger influencer at a party once how extremely rare or fascinating it is for me to have so many friends from high school that I'm still close with, which I can't lie made me a little sad for the younger generation. But our relationship is interesting in that it's had a lot of peaks and valleys when it comes to how close we've been over the years. While we met freshman year of high school and were constantly in each other's orbit, we actually didn't really become close friends until our senior year. And even though we went to college in different states, we were still able to maintain a strong relationship up until she moved to Germany. But what I love about our relationship, and what you'll get to hear for yourselves in our conversation today, is that while we are both honest about how our relationship faltered for several years, there is still so much love and joy and realness in how we talk about it. And so even though Rachel admitted to me and a group of friends in the funniest way possible that we were not her ring one tier of friends, I think this conversation is a great representation of how meaningful friendship cannot be forced, as well as the power of observing and reserving. I read this phrase somewhere, and I'm so mad that I can't remember where it was, because I love to give credit where credit is due. And I'm telling you, it was either Susan Miller, who is an amazing astrologer, or it was the House of Intuition, which is another great place. I mean, if you're into mysticism and tarot stuff, House of Intuition, I'm obsessed with them, and they do a weekly newsletter. So it was either House of Intuition or Susan Miller. But I love how this phrase speaks to the power of not needing to offer an immediate reaction when being confronted with a hard truth. I think that sometimes we feel rushed to present an emotion, whether that's sadness or being offended, when we're given a complex response from someone, and I think particularly when it's someone we like. And I think this phrase is a great reminder that there's a lot of value to be taken from just observing how you feel and then reserving your response. Anyway, I can't wait for y'all to meet my very honest, hilarious friend, Rachel. I am so excited for this interview. You guys have to know that Rachel does not like having a digital footprint. So she's just like, oh my gosh, people are going to find me.
I forgot that now the podcast starts, you talk to people who aren't here versus just us. This is going to go well. I'm thrilled to be here. I have only mildly been dreading this for a week or so.
We're going to have such a fun time. So I'm dying.
Chug-a-lug.
All right, Rachel, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you.
See, your body is rejecting me being on the podcast too.
Shut up. So Rachel, as you know, the podcast is all about friendship. And this particular series that I do is me interviewing my friends to figure out how we became friends. Because as adults, we're always saying that making friends is so hard. And so I want to look back into our friendship past to see how we became friends and see if there are any takeaways for the audience. But I should preface this and say, so before we get into are we officially friends now? Because when Rachel came to visit me last year, Becky and I were having a meeting and she asked us how many best friends I think it was like how many best friends you have.
Yeah. Close or best?
Wait, say it again?
It was either close or best friends. I think that was the...
Yeah. And so it was Rachel, our friend Kendall, and Dee, who I've interviewed before. And so Kendall was like how she has like 20 best friends. And I think Dee was like, I have like 10 or whatever. And then Rachel goes, yeah, I have like 4.
Correct.
And Kendall's like, are we included in that? And Rachel's like, no.
I stand by that. Well, to be fair, that was, first of all, I take deep credit because I think that was your entire first episode was on like the different tiers of friendship, right? Or like the different layers. And I will simply say that like close friend, and then we got into the whole location thing, but I'm like, I have multiple different points now because I've also been thinking about this a little bit, but I do think I've gone through a development of how friends in general or how I view friendship and how I put effort into friendship and everything like that. So I do think that was a kickoff of a little bit of more of a thought-provoking thing, which I appreciate. But at the time, I still stand by that when I think close friends, it's like the 3 or 4 people that like if I was in life or death or needed help or was going to the hospital or something, like the emergency ones. But post that trip, you guys have certainly mentally moved up.
Oh, so we...
Yeah, I'm willing to come on your damn podcast, Daysha. All right. I don't have any social media. This is a lot.
This is a lot. So you know what? Now that you say that, but I was going to say, like, we have been clowning Rachel forever, ever since that. We're like, we're just acquaintances. So I am so excited to know that I have moved into legit friend territory.
Congratulations. It's a big step.
No, but I actually do think what you said was really valid. I actually think that you gave the most honest answer because, you revealed that proximity really matters to you. And the fact that you know that, and, I give you big props for that. So,
You know, like how babies learn, what is it? The peekaboo? Object permanence, I think is what it's called. And if it's out of sight, out of mind kind of thing, I feel like I have a little bit of that with friends, which is like if they're around, then I like interact, but then suddenly they're not there, and I just focus on whatever life is that. I'm working on it in therapy. It's all good.
No, I mean, and to be fair, I think our relationship has been so interesting. And I agree with you that I think over the last year and since we had that conversation, we are much more present in each other's lives. Whereas like before, we know each other from high school. And I think that, yes, we had that connection from high school, but then life kind of happened and we would try and stay in touch, but we definitely weren't staying in touch the way that we stay in touch now. So listen, go ahead.
I was going to say huge testament to you. I do think you and Kendall, because Kendall just like harasses everybody to also via text, which I appreciate. But I've learned to really appreciate friends who put in the effort and then make sure that the relationships continue. And I think that you've done that like tremendously well with the 4 of us of just like wrangling us together. And again, pulling me through my phase of, I don't need friends in the US anymore kind of thing. I had a similar thing when I moved here of, I don't need friends that are Americans. Like I'll just be friends with Germans. But it's not true. Like you should take friendship wherever you can get it. And if there's people that care about you enough to like harass you via text to get you on a video call, like appreciate that. And anyway, so thank you, Daysha. And I agree with you. I think we've also gotten a lot closer in the last year or two as adults.
Yeah. Also, Rachel used to live in the United States and is now in Germany. She's our German. She actually identifies more with being a German now. She called herself a European the other day. And I was like, oh, okay.
my mother's British.
Oh, you are so right. Okay, all right.
She's British and Irish. I'm half European. I'm not.
Okay, I guess that's fair. I guess you were always like, all right.
I remember that from last week, and you were giving me such a hard time, and I like forgot to mention. I was like, did she forget that I?
I really did, though.
Yeah,
I really did.
all good.
Okay, so my first question for you, in your rememberings, how did we meet?
So we met at Concord Academy, and that was, so we had a thing which was like a chapel, but it wasn't really a religious thing. It was just kind of like where we all met as a whole student body and had different meetings. And at the beginning of the year, they took photos of us, like our freshman year, and you had like a designated seat, and it was like your chapel row or something. There was 5 people in it, and they kept calling us out in groups of 5 at a time and making us take photos so that they could write down our names and like remember who was who. And at the time, I was really insecure about getting my photo taken. I think that lasted multiple years throughout puberty, but I had this terrible like chin length haircut that was like exploding out to my shoulders, and I was in these baggy.
You had like a mom bob, but like before being a mom.
Because I donated my hair. I used to have long hair, and I chopped it all off to like get ready for high school, and it looked awful. And I was like, anyway, I was just angsty about that. Didn't like having my photo taken. Was with a bunch of people I'd never met before. Introvert from a school of like 8 people, like just scared out of my mind. And I remember after you got your photo taken, they shuttled us over to this park or like this grass area. And because I think it was based off last name, you were one of the photo groups after. And I remember seeing you like walk over, and I just think I saw like a fellow panicked person or like someone else that was feeling like a certain kind of way about being like shoveled. I don't know. You just had like this calm, but like also energy that I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, like that's a safe zone. Like that's someone that I could feel safe with. And I just remember wandering over to you and just was like, hi, I'm Rachel. And you're like, hi. And I just stood next to you. And like, that's all I remember. But I think that that's a very similar energy, I think, even now to this day. But yeah, did we talk about that? I don't remember if you remember.
Yeah, I do not remember this at all. But honestly, like I do remember, I feel you in that it was a very just like overwhelming situation where you just have all these kids around you and you're taking pictures with people. And, you know, like I'm also an introvert as well. So maybe that's what you sensed. But it was just, there was a lot of energy in like that photo taking moment.
Yeah. And like all these like loud people yelling and being friendly, and just, it was so much. Yeah. It was a very overwhelming thing. And you were a nice little oasis in the storm. So yeah, I think I remember wandering over and was like, help.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. Okay, I'm trying to think about my remembering of us first meeting, because so we went to a boarding school, but it was a boarding day school. And so my first year was actually a day student because I didn't get the financial aid to be a boarding student, but I essentially was a boarding student my first year. Like I was there all the time. Anytime I could sleep over, I was there. And I feel like I remember, because you were in Phelps, right?
Yeah.
There was a night we watched anime in your room, didn't we?
Maybe. I didn't really have a laptop.
I feel like
what?
If it wasn't your computer, somebody had a computer and we watched, I think, Spirited Away together.
Yeah, that rings a bell. I like that movie.
Yeah. So I do remember that. And I do remember you being like, and it's so Rachel's journey from like high school to now, because she was so quiet and like, you know, like mousy, but like you blossomed, like you truly blossomed. Thinking about where you ended up by senior year, you were a head of house, which was at boarding school. You had it was kind of like an RA. Yeah. Yeah. And you're just so bubbly and personable, and yeah, like you really blossomed. But yeah, that's my earliest memory is of us watching Spirited Away in your room. I think that might have even been like the first time I slept over, or
yeah, maybe. I mean, there's a bunch. There's some other people I know in the building, but I don't think we were definitely friends. Well, God, maybe this is me doing the thing about saying we're friends and we're not friends thing again. But like, I don't remember like my closest group of friends or the people that I felt closest with, I think you were like in the periphery of someone I wanted to be friends with, but you kind of had another group and you were a day student as well. So it was just, I always remember really liking spending time with you and thinking you were really kind, but not necessarily hanging out with you and like doing activities together as much. But
no, totally. I think that we got closer through D because I was always like hanging out with D, and then you and D got to be good friends. Yeah, like I feel like D was the connector for us. And I agree that I think that at the start we were in each other's orbits, but I think that let's see, because in sophomore year, I lived there. Now I'm even trying to think like, because okay, all right. You know what it is? I think that we started, because I started sleeping over at your house.
Yeah. Why?
Well, why?
I don't know. Wait, but wasn't that later years?
So it was that later?
I mean, it was a bunch senior year, but that seems quite late.
Yeah.
Well, because it wouldn't make sense. Your family was in Boston, right? So why would...
Maybe, oh my God, maybe that was later. Maybe that was, because I remember that...
The Junhee thing?
Yeah, the Junhee thing. Oh my gosh, I have to have Junhee on too. So Junhee is a Korean friend that we have from boarding school, and there was this weird mix-up where Rachel thought that Junhee had feelings for her because he made her a sign for her chapel.
No,
but like
it was the other way around. So he made me a sign, and then he had his chapel or his public speech or whatever. Everyone in senior year had to talk for like 15 minutes at the whole student body. Anyway, I made him a sign with his name and like signed it of like hey, you're one of my closest friends, you mean so much to me, love you, best wishes, like you've got this. And because his was like the last chapel of the year, no one bothered to make a sign, so he only had like 2 or 3, and the one for me being like I love you as a friend. And then he thought that I had feelings for him, and then I think he told you that, and then you told me asking if I liked him, and then I freaked out because I was like, oh God, did I accidentally, like, no I don't. And then he had to stay at my house. This is all.
Yeah, he had to stay at you guys had already arranged for him to stay at your house because he needed like a week before his flight or whatever, somewhere to stay. And so then you were like, Daysha, please sleep over.
The teenage angst. Neither of us liked each other.
But yeah, that's the funny thing. Junhee's actually gay. Like that's like what is so funny about all of it is that he was gay and like you didn't like him, like, but you guys both were like
actually no. But here's the thing. I stood by that narrative for like a decade, and then I was going through old journals and I read one from like a couple months before that where I was like, do I like him? And like going through an existential crisis of whether or not I did like Junhee. So I think maybe it's all true. Maybe I did have a crush on him and maybe I wasn't comfortable. Yeah, who knows?
Maybe that was why you let him stay with you, and then it got too real.
Daysha, help! That's the theme of our friendship. Is me just calling for help.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I feel like our relationship was like a slow burn almost. I think that, because you're right, there was a group of people, I was kind of already associated with a group. And I want to say, I think I got burned out from that group by like junior year. Yeah. And then I started making more of a transition. And then I think, because honestly, like, I feel like outside of a few random memories that I will get to because they kill me, I feel like we got super close senior year.
Yeah. But also I think your friend group, from what I remember, that group of friends was a lot of day students. And then your later one was more boarding students. Maybe that's not true, but
no, I think yeah. No, I definitely think that because I turned into a boarding student sophomore year, and then I think by I would say late junior year, I was kind of over that group and just over. Yeah. Okay. So I guess you kind of I guess we kind of did this, but I'll see if there's anything else to say. But what was your first initial impression of me?
I think, you said that earlier too of like me, everybody grows up in high school. So I guess that's like your personalities change and everything else. But I would say that's similar for you. Like, I think you were also very shy and like almost cautious of taking up space and just like at least that's what I remember of having other friends, but kind of with just like being a step back from it. And I think that was also really similar to how I was. But then also by the end, I mean, I guess we had a similar kind of development path because you were head of school, you joined all these activities, and you just became this big explosion of color and happiness and all this other, like, and having such a big presence. So I think, it's funny how for me, what attracted me to you as a friend at the beginning, we grew at the same time. So that even though that aspect of you changed a lot, that kind of matched. And I learned to then appreciate your outgoingness and your bubbliness and how much like you just filled up a room, right? And then also being able to, I filled up smaller rooms, but oh, and we were in we were in Theater 3 together. Do you remember that?
Oh my, wait, that was it. We got close through theater. That was it. Oh my God. Yes. Because theater was such a time. Theater was such a time.
To this day, I still could not tell you why the hell I did theater in high school. First, to the highest level. Like the Theater 3 was with like the quote unquote, not even remotely, but quote unquote elite group of like theater at our lovely fine arts high school. Why the hell was I there? I remember my like parents were like very confused as to why I was doing that. And then they came to the shows, which were like so avant-garde. And I was the worst one by far.
No.
Yeah,
I don't think you were the worst.
Well, that's not saying much about the group then. Let's put it that way.
No, I think because there's someone who I'm thinking of who was like bullshitting their way through it. And you were not the worst.
You're not going to name drop them?
No, I'm not going to name drop them because I wasn't close to them like that. But like, they were definitely like, yeah.
Text me after.
Yeah, I will text you. But it is funny though, because like, and maybe it was because we were meant to be friends, but yeah, it was theater. It was theater. Yes. Theater 3 was this we called it a company, and it was when we actually developed a play together as students. And so, yeah, I feel like avant-garde doesn't even cut it. Like it was
They were awful. Sorry, is that rude?
We were very experimental. I have the DVD. I don't know why we didn't watch it when you guys were here, because we definitely should have.
And I have our the coffee house and a bunch of other stuff too. We should have watched all of that.
Oh yeah. Okay, well, when we go visit you in Berlin, we'll have to do that.
I'll buy a DVD player. I don't own one. No, but seriously, if you think about it, like it's not quite a pyramid. It isn't a pyramid scheme. But if you think about the fact that this school managed to charge God knows how many tens of thousands of dollars per year for these kids to go and pretend to make a play that turns out to be absolute horse shit, like that is like a beautiful sequence of events. Like good for them. We did like a weird dance number. Do you remember? There was like a hand dance number to this like pop synth song.
Oh,
like,
yeah, I do.
What was that? That's like
Listen, I loved Theater 3, okay? I was like, that year was just me being so out there, and oh my gosh, that was like, it was like Lady Gaga was huge. Like she had just blown up. So I was just so inspired by her, and we have a lot of friendship memories between us, but I do... Mm-hmm. At that time, I was so inspired by her. Do you know what story?
Say it, or am I going to say it? Wait, I need to know if we're talking about the same thing.
I think we are.
Your hand gestures, I think I know.
Yeah. So, I was just doing really weird shit with my outfits. And so there was one day where I walked around with present bows on my tits.
That made the yearbook. So you were in like a black and white, like, like a Parisian black and white striped shirt, and then these two bright present bows like right on your boobs. And you got in trouble, or you got like...
I got talked to.
You got talked to. You were spoken with. Lady Gaga's influence knows no bounds.
Oh my gosh. Loved it. I was in my creative element. But I do remember you looking at me that day like, Daysha.
Say what you want. Like, I think it's such joy. I just remember being like, what the hell, man? Like, it's not like And you were taking it very seriously. And I think that's why I needed to say something. Because if you did it with like some amount of like irony or self-deprecation, but no, you truly believed, no, my style is present bows on my boobs, and that's it. And I was like, Daysha, I think we just need to take a step back.
And I refused.
And power to you. I just like legendary. Yeah, go for it.
What a time to be alive.
2010. Great time.
And so then when I think of my first impression of you, like you. So the funny thing is because you were somebody that you had to get to know to really see the treasure, because you were very like quiet and to yourself, but it's not like you didn't have like a sassy side to you. It's not like you didn't have a colorful side to you. It was just kind of like like, I'm not giving it to everybody. I'm only giving it to like a few select people who I think deserve to see this side of me.
I don't know. I just remember being really shy and skittish. I also like the context is I also went to private middle school, but that we only had like 8 kids in our graduating class, and I'm an only child, and my parents are deeply emotionally unavailable. Thank you, the last 2 years of therapy. So just like not knowing, I didn't know how to interact with people my own age, and I just didn't really have the skills. So I remember just always feeling like I needed to observe people to understand like what was going on. And to like not, it almost felt like I would do something wrong if I interacted in the wrong way or if I said the wrong thing. And it was just always really overwhelming. So I think the select few was when there was enough of a rapport and trust that I was like, okay, like this person will give me the space to quote unquote screw up the social interaction and not like hold it against me. And I think, I mean, those tactics are still alive and well into my 30s. So I think it's like, I see myself doing it now and I can kind of remember. But no, I think that was it. It was just you have to know someone well enough to trust that they will be nice to you. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think that's real too. Like, I think that so often I think the people who get hurt a lot by their friendships are the people who I think that they're maybe too open too soon, and they're not really thinking about, is this a safe space? And I think that you were very cognizant of making sure that it was a safe space.
Yeah.
Before you shared yourself.
That was tough too. I mean, it was my first time having a roommate. Like I didn't interact with kids after like 4 p.m. most days. And then to all of a sudden be around by people till like midnight. It would honestly, thank God. Can you imagine if I hadn't done that? I think it would have truly stunted. Well, already I am making an assumption that I'm not stunted right now, but
you are not.
Would have stunted me even further. Did held that off.
Okay, so what was the moment that made you want to be friends with me? Like, what made you say, that's a girl I want to be friends with?
I think, well, we had the beginning thing where just first meeting, and I think the energy match was really strong. But I would say, again, you automatically form bonds, I think, in general in the boarding school environment, and just like going over, being able to sit in people's rooms and just kind of chat and have that. But I do think the good news about boarding school is you meet a lot of people that are just very different in all different ways. And I think there is an element of, I was just really curious about people who were different than me in whatever way. Like, you grew up in a city. I think you had a lot of siblings, or like your parent situation was just separate, and you had a way of going about things that was like more bold than I was. So there was just so many different elements about you that I was just, I don't know, more intrigued by. And I think I also gravitate towards people that were a lot more confident. Like, I also think of Sam Toby about this too. Like, that girl is a pint and a half of kind of crazy, and I love her to absolute death, but she was just so outgoing and so much herself that it was also just nice to be around that.
You know, with you saying that, like, I almost feel like there was this yin and yang, like, I was to D what Sam Toby is to you, you know? And I think that because D was the more quiet out of the two of us, and like you were more quiet out of you and Sam. And so, yeah, I do find that really interesting that, you know, it's not like when we talk about friendship synergy and like what that looks like, I do find that really interesting that it wasn't like you and D were super close and then me and Sam were super close because we were both these very loud, crazy people, but that we kind of found the opposites to balance each other out.
I think, at least for Sam and I think I was more like the responsible, organized, cared about the studies, was able to kind of do stepwise and just more cautious. And she was just so rambunctious and outgoing. And there was a level of not giving a shit that I was just kind of almost like between I admired it and was terrified of it. It was somewhere in that like range.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, I mean, again, that's part of high school, I think, is being around people that are stretch you in different ways and grow. And that's still true to this day. That girl, I love the hell out of her. She's like absolutely nuts.
Oh my gosh.
So much.
You know what's so funny is that I remember with Sam when we were younger, because Sam was something else. And I was like, Sam is either going to do this like wild, crazy career, non-traditional career, or she's just going to completely do a 180 and become like a housewife with like 3 kids. It was just very much like she's going to be one of those two. And so I actually love that she didn't turn into a housewife. She's actually like a flamethrower dancer and makes like just does like the coolest shit. I love it.
She like after we graduated high school, she was saying to people that she was going to join the Air Force. Do you remember that?
I do vaguely remember that.
And I remember I told my parents and they were like, absolutely not. Like, there's no way that girl is going to make it through the Air Force. And I was like, you can't say that. And they're like, we won't, but she's not going to. And I was like, okay. Lo and behold, she didn't. I think she dropped out, did a bunch of other programs. She's just had such a cool, you should have her on, honestly. Like,
no, yeah, totally. But yeah, she's had a crazy, interesting life. Okay. Wait, did I finish my thoughts on my impressions of you? Did I finish?
Oh, kind of.
Oh, wait, no, because we're on the moment that made you want to be friends. Okay, there it is.
We kind of rambled. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, but we found it. The moment that, I think I'm always really drawn to people who are honest and who are just real about where they're coming from, hence you guys are my acquaintances.
I did not say that. You can't keep misquoting. The question was best and close friends. And I said, I have 3 or 4. Kendall said she has 20, which I'm sorry. That's obscene. No one has 20 best friends. They're not best. That's ridiculous.
That's fair. See, yes. So I'm drawn to people who are honest. I'm drawn to people who are very real. And like, you are someone who is very honest.
Now I guess the German directness comes.
Yeah, you were pretty much meant to be a German, I guess.
Yeah,
you were meant to be fully European.
Genau. No one's gonna get yes, correct.
But yeah, I think that I'm trying to think because I also think that it feels weird, but I think it's coming to me now that I think a lot of my closest memories and like my fondest memories with you happened much later in our high school career. And it was senior year just looms very big for me. Mm-hmm. And I honestly think like now that we talked about it, I'm like theater. And I think just like kind of clowning the shit that we were doing in theater, as much as I loved it, do you remember when I did that clown dance and you guys were like, Daysha, what is that?
I might have blocked out the specifics from my memory, but the general theme of that rings true.
Yeah. We had this activity that we had to do where it was like he gave us a clown nose, and then I think it was like try to make people laugh or do something like basically like I don't know. I think it was make people laugh. And I just did this weird dance and everyone and I think afterwards you were like, again, Daysha. You were like, what the fuck was that? So yeah, I think that you have a level of honesty that I think particularly as a white woman as well, that I just don't see amongst white women a lot. And so, yeah, I think that was, I could always count on you to be the person that I could look over and be like, is this some bullshit? And you'd be like, yeah, this is some bullshit.
What the fuck is that? Just like, but that's a part of it too, which I think worked, is there was a level of trust there where I knew I could say that's some bullshit and you'd laugh and like have a good sense of humor about it. Cause you like, while you did, I think, take yourself seriously, but you also, again, we were all teenagers, you're stretching, you're figuring stuff out. Right. And there was a point of view that was really open to that. When I was like, no, that's bullshit. You would just kind of laugh, giggle and be like, whatever, Rachel. And then keep waltzing off with your like clown nose. And I just think like that was, yeah, that's the trust there, I think, or the good part about it. Because there's a lot of people that, first of all, if they ask you what they think, they don't actually want feedback, or they don't actually want to know what you're thinking. And I think that always really confused me, because in terms of just like reading social dynamics, it's like if someone is trying to ask for your thoughts or your opinions, like, don't they want to actually, like, don't you care enough to actually know what I think? Or do you want me to like kind of spool that a little bit so that you get what my best guess of what you want is? And it was just always hard, versus with situations like that of just being able to be like, no, that's stupid, and you laughing, I'm like, okay, cool, we're good. And then it was just it made everything easy. Like, you never really needed to think too hard about hurting someone, because it's never your intention to hurt when you're giving just your honest thoughts, right? So yeah, again, I think it goes back to the safe space.
Yeah, because I also think, I mean, there's a part of me that knew, like, I don't ever think that like, when you were being honest, it's not like I was like, yeah, no, I know. I know.
No, I know. I'm trying to think, and there's more. Do you remember we did, in hindsight, I've always thought this was kind of odd, but I was in your room once and you had a bunch of your accessories, and I just did dress up for a while. And you had this like hair piece that was, I don't know, it could like tie into a ponytail or something. And
it was like a little Afro puff ponytail. Yeah.
Some of the best photos I've ever taken, I'm pretty sure. Now I'm wondering if it might be slightly cultural appropriation. Not sure, but
I mean, I think without context, people might have words, but I think you were my profile photo for a while. Yeah. When you
Correct.
Yes. I really, like, senior year, I think, is where I was really finding myself. And again, experimenting. And that's actually when I got into doing wigs and ponytails, all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, there was a night where Rachel came over and she just put on my ponytails and on my scarves. And like, she just really channeled her inner Daysha.
Yeah. Because in no way, I would never buy I didn't own anything that was like that. Because again, I think I don't know. This is me. I bought my first pair of jeans when I was like halfway through high school. Like, I just no amount of style could touch me, even if it tried. So I think seeing you also being able to get all this stuff and just be really free with experimenting of what you wanted to wear and try. There again, I think I admired that as well, of the freedom that you had with your artistic expression of clothing choices. Beautiful.
That is one way to put it. So what do you think works well about our friendship?
Now? Or
I mean, it could be back then or now. I think whatever calls to you.
I think there's like just an easygoingness of like, we can talk about serious things as well, but I think it's just in general, I've realized it's rare to have friends that you really can just like belly laugh with. And I don't know if that's just because we've gone through so much shit together growing up, or it's just been such a long time, but being able to really look back at, maybe it's that you can look back at things that you not really regret, but like a level under regret, like you kind of get the cringe about something, and then being able to just like openly laugh about it with someone that was also there for it. I just think that is, yeah, a really nice experience. And that, yeah, I don't know if that's really what works with our friendship, but it's something that I also appreciate in terms of having that as a friendship now. And I think you're very persistent, and I found that is vital for friends that I have.
Rachel, you also let's not... Rachel wants to say, like, I am persistent, but Rachel also, like, she drops off the face of the earth in a way where you're just like, are you alive? Bitch, can you give me a signal of life?
What? Interesting. Wait, no, that reminded me of something, but then I promptly forgot.
So, I mean, and this has been Rachel through and through since high school, where you just kind of had to like be like, hello, are you there? Can you tell me if you're alive?
It's what I call quiet introvert time. And then I just like retreat and then forget. And here's the thing, and this is on slight social anxiety. I then realize that someone is reaching out and I'm like, ah, crap. I need to reach back out to them because they're probably upset. And then I'm like, well, that's kind of stressful, so I'm not going to do that. I'll just wait. And then another week goes by and I'm like, ah, crap. Now it's even worse. Like maybe I just wait. And then eventually they'll reach out a second time and then I'm like, ah, shit. shit. So then it's like, then I try to respond really quickly the second time or whatever the next nth amount of time is with like a deep apology. But yeah, no, that has been consistent. I've tried to get better. As my wonderful therapist says, it is important to be honest in your friendship. So even if it's okay to just be like, I had a really shit week, sorry, get back to you in a second, that's still better than just ghosting. But I have to say, I still get overwhelmed with texts frequently.
No, totally. And that's totally fair. I think I actually thought it was a huge sign of growth. And again, as like Rachel's again, with her realness, it's just like, so Rachel used to work at a furniture company and
oh, that's what I was gonna bring up. Yes.
So Rachel used to work at a furniture company and she had a hookup. And so there was a point in time where we were meeting once a week so that I could place a furniture order for the house. And then Rachel was like, I'm thinking about leaving. So then I was getting like anxious about, oh my gosh, I have to get everything I need for the house. And I was like messaging her, like, are we meeting? Are we meeting? Are we meeting? And so then finally one day you did say, you were like, you know what? I just need you to know that this is not a priority for me. And I was like, that's fair. You were like, this is like my priority number one. This is my priority number two. And then there's you. And I was like, that's fair.
For context, I was very senior leading a large international team of like working 10 hours a day. And then I'd need to rush off to do other things. And then all of a sudden I'd get meeting invites popping up that's like, hey, we need to order my furniture, stop everything, and then go and do this. We had a spreadsheet. It was we got organized as it went on. I think we bought a significant amount, 20, 30 items, like a large number, quantity of stuff. It required coordination. It required deciding the long list of things you wanted. I need to manually look up the prices. And it was an ordeal. It was
an operation.
It was a part-time job, Daysha.
Which is why when you had that moment with me, I was like, this is fair. You are doing this after you've worked a job. Like we were even trying to coordinate hours because she's in Germany and I'm over here. And it was like, I don't know, it was like a 10-hour time difference or something like that. 9.
Except during, 9.
Yes. So all I'm saying is that I appreciate that you were honest about where ordering furniture was in your list of priorities.
That's true. But again, testament. Like, I think there's a lot of people in my life that essentially my only coping mechanism is to either say it and like set whatever. It's not even really a boundary. Just say like what you're capable of doing and let the other person know. But there's a lot of people where I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. And my only solution is to just kind of back away and hope and just not be available or not even open the door. So it already takes a lot for me to even give someone the like access to get to favors, if that makes sense. So that's also when we were talking about like the like close circle of friends. Those are the people where like if they need to ask me for a favor, me of energy, I will be willing to do it without really thinking about it. So that needs to be a really small group because I'm not very good at defending against that once it's there, if that makes sense. So again,
No, totally. And it's funny, like when you had said that like we weren't in your close friend circle, I wasn't offended because again, like I knew that it was coming from a real place. And I also knew that I was like, we are much closer to Rachel than I think that is being articulated in this moment, because otherwise she would not have gotten on a plane and flew.
Fair point.
You know what I'm saying? It felt like a very much a lost in translation thing. Mm-hmm. And so I even, now I respect even more your ability to be honest with me, because I agree with you. I think that when you aren't as close with someone, so two things happen. Either you like completely avoid them or you end up people pleasing and doing all of the things, but you actually don't want to do all of the things. And so I think that, again, as you talked about, and you go back to this like trust, this inherent trust that we have, which is why I think I just thought it was funny when you were like, no, because you also said it so like, no, like, what do you mean?
Again, because Kendall had just said she had 20, and that was, I think my mind was still reeling from that. And then And also I think that too, and this is why I say things without thinking of it. My brain was like, I haven't seen you guys in like 10 years. Of course we're not that close. Like that was literally where my brain went. But then your counterpoint is very clear, which is, well, then why did you fly to visit us and like take 2 weeks off to go and do that? So, but yes.
No, yeah. And so I just think that you were being really like, again, I think it goes back to why I really enjoy this friendship. And then as I've been doing this podcast and like having revelations with Becky, just like realizing how the level of honesty that you bring is just so rare for white people. It is just
like, what do you think? I didn't think is it a white thing? Is it a cultural
honestly
thing?
like I do think that it's a white woman thing. I think that white women, they do a lot of people pleasing.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of, smiling in your face. But then, wait, are you watching The White Lotus?
I want to. I can't find it. And I was trying, I cannot put online, but I may or may not be trying to find a way to view it without spending money so people can infer from what that means. And I found the first 2 episodes, but the third one was like translated into, I think, Hindi halfway through. And I just was like, what the hell is this? And I was like, I can't. So anyway, I need to find the opportunity to watch that.
Yeah. Well, this season in particular, they have a trio of white women that
I saw those 3. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. Yeah.
No, totally. But I think that they are really exemplary of what I have experienced and also seen white female relationships to be. And, like, I just think that, again, like with me and you would be like, like those women, they are the type of women that would watch me in my present pose and they'd be like, oh my God, Daysha, you look so good. And then be like, oh my gosh, like like, what is she thinking? Whereas like you were openly like, Daysha, what are you thinking? And I was like, I'm thinking that I'm Lady Gaga, so let me be. Like it's just, there's just a level of, I think it's the desire to not want to deal with conflict or animosity. And I think that that's just like a human thing across the board. But when we think about being women, and that's the other thing that like, I think women try to be conflict averse, but in a way that I think, if not thought about carefully, actually creates more conflict and more drama.
I think that's all. I know. I agree with you. I think that's also a level of genuine or disingenuous. What is it? Disingenuousness?
Yes. Yeah,
disingenuous. But I think I perceive that quite a lot also with, I don't know, white women, any group, but that I run away from like a mile at like 10 miles an hour, right? Because you can pick up on it. There's like subtle cues all over the place in that. And again, going into that trusting thing, I think that for me is like, this is someone that's going to say one thing and do another thing, and absolutely not. And I don't know, you learn tactics or way to manage those types of relationships by only giving very specific parts of yourself that like suit whatever that situation is. And maybe that's a bit too like mega brainy, but that's how I navigated through that kind of thing. And then again, being able to just find a group of people where you can just say like, fuck it. And like, there was no part of me that ever worried that something I would share with you, you would weaponize in any way. Like, I think that's the true part of it is you would take it, you'd accept it, you'd make fun of it at my face, to my face, you would mock me about it incessantly for months and years to come, but to my face. So I knew it was there, but it would never be cruel and it would never be undermining. But I do think like without wanting to like villainize too much, I think the other element of why people do that, and I've also done that occasionally, half the time when I chat like behind back, it's because I'm trying to figure out how I feel about something.
No, totally. I don't want to villainize. I think I'm saying that there is a line where it can become, and because I do the same thing sometimes where I'm like, I need to work out how I'm feeling about this thing with somebody else, right? Yeah. But then there's a difference between trying to work something out and intentionally just trying to be like, oh my gosh, what is that girl doing?
That's true. Or like, you're right. There's a big nuance there because one is like trying to work it out, but under that guise. The other is you can still be trying to work it out, but it's intentionally using someone else's information to position yourself in a way in a new interaction, if that makes sense. Or using someone else's information as like cannon fodder or like ammunition somewhere else. Like, and I think there's just boundaries there. If someone's shared something with you in whatever way, you have a right to protect that or treat it as that's yeah, that's part of the relationship, and not use it as gossip or anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You have like White Lotus season 3. I know that they were kind of supposed to be a side thing, but it has been, Mike White did this like sociological study on, and I don't want to make it seem like it's only white women that do this. I just think that I see it a lot when I am trying to connect with white women, because like you said, like I'm a very bold personality. I'm very honest. And I've just noticed that there are certain white women who cannot handle that. They are just very much like, mm-mm. And with you, it really does stand out because, you know, you're just kind of like, yeah, cool, whatever.
I mean, that's a big cultural thing too, because even I think we've talked about that here in Germany as well. Like when I first moved, there's a pretty broad sentiment that Americans come across as disingenuous compared to, say, Germans. So just in like small nuance, like in the States, you'll walk by and say, "Hey, how are you?" And that's a greeting. "How are you?" is just like a casual phrase of like hello. And you don't really, the only acceptable response is, "I'm great, thanks," or "good." You would never say anything worse than good, because it's almost like how dare you burden someone else with a negative emotion. You're just greeting each other, right? You come over here to Europe. This is a story. I must have told you this. I was in my gym and I was friendly with one of the women that worked there. And I came in to use the gym and I was like in German, "Oh, how are you?" And she paused. She stopped what she was doing. She turned to me and she's like, "I'm really stressed. I have a phone bill and I need to pay it. And I have a pay-as-you-go phone plan and it costs me 30 euros to like put it on. And I put it on the wrong phone number and now I'm out 30 euros and I'm really anxious about it. And I'm trying to call the person back to get my money back." And she went on a 5-minute long rant or talking about how she was, because when you ask, it was a genuine answer to what she perceived to be a genuine question. So I think, it was, I just didn't like realize that, because for me, it's still a bit of a greeting. So I think there's a huge disconnect there. And maybe also the cultural difference of the disconnect between maybe white women in the States compared to non-white women is maybe similar to also just other countries and how they deal with it. Yeah, as well. But maybe I'm just true German in my heart. That's the...
No, but I love that you bring that up, because I was literally just thinking about that the other day, how problematic it is that we say, "How are you?" as a greeting versus like I think that, and I can see, you know, how others, when they're experiencing people from the United States, how they feel like it's disingenuous because we don't really say what we mean. You know what I'm saying? Because "how are you" really shouldn't be the same as just saying hi. You know, it really is. If you are going to say "how are you," you should be expecting a real response, or don't say "how are you," you know? And I think that in American English in particular, we have a lot of sayings like that where it's on the surface, it implies that you want to know more than you actually do.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny moving abroad because I've found, I mean, I've been abroad now almost 9 years, and you kind of go through phases. Like my first couple of years here, resent is too strong a word, but I was actively trying to take a step back from Americans. And in a similar friendship, I'd found myself in a friendship group of a bunch of American expats, and I actively was trying to take a step back from that. And I was in a group chat I didn't want to be in, and people were following up with me all the time, and I didn't want them to follow up. And I was like, I moved abroad. I want to be with Germans. I want to be around other Europeans. And I really resisted it. And again, I had a moment maybe 4 years later, kind of right around COVID. I was in a shit relationship I was trying to get out of. And I suddenly realized how hard it is to find a group of people that care enough about you to really want you to be included. And I should have just accepted that. And you know, I'm young. That was young. I was in my young 20s, right? Like you learn through it. But I really have formed an appreciation now when there are people forming a group or pulling you in to just kind of accept it and take that as what it is. But anyway, the first phase was like resenting the American culture. And now it's just a bit of, you see, there's such beauty in that too, of like the overt friendliness, because it is good hearted. It's like, I want to lead with you, even if you're in a shit mood, if you still take the very best part of that, and that's what you're offering someone else in a greeting of "I'm great," even if you're feeling miserable. Like while that isn't true, there's still an element of, I think, kind of beauty there of a like, no, I'm still gonna do my best so that you don't have to hold this hurt kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit too meta, but I like that about it.
Yeah, I feel that. I hear that. I think it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, I think that we as Americans need to kind of split the difference in terms of, because I hear like, you know, from that, I hear this idea of, you know, say that you're good so that it's more for you than it is for like, even if you're not good. You're saying I'm good because that's where you want to be, right? But then I also think that sometimes with Americans in particular, like it is just so hard for people to acknowledge when they're really not good. And so I think I think we need to kind of split the difference there. But I like that you think about it in that way. I think that's
the optimistic American way of viewing it. You're right. It is fundamentally broken. Like if you're hurt, the best way to get over grief or like sadness or anything is not to ignore the fact that you have it, but to live it, right? So if you run around faking it to everyone, it's not really helping anything. So yeah, I don't know. After being around a bunch of grumpy Germans a lot, you suddenly start to appreciate the like joy that is any American. Like I'll meet an American here, someone will just like introduce themselves and I'm like, are you American? And I just get so excited now because it's like, hello friend, and you just know it's going to be like a friendly upbeat interaction. So but anyway,
oh my gosh, Rachel got too much realness. She's like, the Germans are too real.
too much, too direct.
Okay, so thinking about our friendship, is there anything that you think I could do better or that you think you could do better in our relationship?
I don't know if there's anything you could do better because I think you're available, consistent, put in effort. I think all of those, that's kind of what you need for any relationship to be there. And I do think if there was something I don't know. I mean, there's one element of maybe I phrase it this way. I have ambitions to upgrade you to the highest tier of friendship, like over the course, ambitions. We're not there yet, Daysha. We're not, it's on the path, the roadmap. Okay. And I think for me, the next phase of that is really, it's the cry test of if I feel like crying, could I call you and like right in the moment cry and have you just like listen and support? And we haven't done that yet. So maybe I just need to get sad and call you up to see how you do. And I'll give you a report card after. But I think that would just be the only other thing, which I hope that we can grow into. But I think for me, what I would want to do better for me is also checking in, because I know you've talked about this too. There's a lot going on in your life too. And I just want to, I don't know, that's a lot of pressure on you. And so I want to be checking in on you more, I think, as well. Because I think when you go through, like, life has highs and lows and everything in between, but you've been so consistent in reaching out. And I don't know if I've offered that or done that as well for you as well. So I think that would be my, like, separately, like, I know we've got the group chats going on, but just also in a one-on-one of just like creating that too, again, in our aspirations of leveling up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there were like two things that I wanted to say. What did you say at first? Yes, the friend. Listen, I am somebody, especially as I get older and then doing the work with this podcast, things are going to run their course. They're going to take their time. I think for me, I can't remember if I cried with you or if I was just really upset, but I do remember my mom and I got into a huge fight, and then you and I were scheduled to order furniture.
Yep.
And so
furniture.
But, for me, like, in that moment, like, you were available and you let me vent, and I was just like, and I was really upset. And so, like, I just think friendship it's not something that you can schedule. Like, I'm going to have a cry time, I'm going to call her. Like, it really is, like, I think it's built in those moments of like, hey, like, I'm dealing with a lot. Can I vent with you for a second?
Yeah.
And, you made yourself available to that. So I will be happy and I will embrace whenever you want to give me the cry test, quote unquote. But yeah, like, I mean, I can even say for me, as far as that, I really appreciated you giving me, because we had just, like, I think I had just fought with her. And then
it was very fresh, I remember.
Yeah. And so, you made space for me. You validated me. Like, yeah. So I think that those are the moments that really build it. And so you can't rush that or plan that. And so I look forward to the day where I can be that shoulder to cry on.
Well, the time zone thing might work for us, because if I have like a bad date and then need to call you at 3 a.m. my time, it'll be 6 p.m. for you, and it'll be right on the money.
Honestly, I feel like because I'm also a night owl too. And so, like, we used to order furniture at like 12 or 1 a.m. my time.
Yep.
Like, I feel like you and I are on a schedule that like typically works in terms of when we're awake.
Yep. Shockingly so. Not when you would think, but it does work.
Yeah, I think in terms of what I could do better, I mean, again, like, I think it's just letting you know that I'm here for you. And when you need me or want to let me in, that I'm open and willing. And yeah, I always want people that I'm close with or that I'm good friends with or whatever to know that I will do whatever I can for you. So I just hope that you know that.
Well, now, thank God we've done this podcast, because now I do. And now we can give it.
Yeah, you can call me more if you want to. I love when people call me. I am not averse to it. So yeah, if you want to call me more, or I can, like, it's hard because I would call you more. It's just that sometimes
I'm going to get overwhelmed and turtle. I'm going to be like, she's calling. What do I do?
So I feel like you are someone where I have to let you kind of come out of your shell. But then every now and then I'm still going to poke you. Like if I'm just like, hey, where have you been? But yeah, I try to give you your space because I know how you are with social anxiety and things
Dee and I the same person? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Yeah, you both are.
She never pokes me. She just like, we're like two turtles in our shells, like kind of in the same area. And when we happen to both stick our head out to eat at the same time, we're like, sup. And then we go back in. It's a beautiful friendship. But you only see each other once every 10 years.
Yeah. And then I'm the rabbit that's like coming in and like knocking you guys over and is like, come on, get the fuck out of the shell. But yeah, so I think the only thing that I could say that you could do better at, but at the same time, like I know you're growing as a person, is just like giving us more signs of life.
You know what? What I'm truly missing is the next like AI bot that I can just hook up to my WhatsApp to send automatic messages. That would be the one like AI advancement I would pay for, is just like an automatic WhatsApp messenger. Like respond to my friends in a timely manner with like a common sense, haha, yes, hello. And if
see, now that you're telling me this, then I would get even more like, Rachel, is this you or is this the AI?
Well, the trick is, Daysha, I wouldn't tell you. I would just start using it. That would be it. But also to help schedule like events and manage my calendar. And then I would just get a summary at the end of the week that would say, these are your social engagements. Like, this is what you need to do. And it would be really helpful because, you know, it's just, I don't use like messaging for like emotional communication. I use it for logistics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, I feel that.
That's the trick.
Yeah.
But feedback
and that's
noted,
why I love that we... Oh, go ahead.
I said feedback noted. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it.
But no, that's why I love that we do our like monthly Zoom chats. And, you know, because I respect that, because I honestly think that I'm kind of the same way, but I have a little bit of flexibility just because like I'm just a naturally flexible person. And so if somebody wants to communicate with me in that way, I can. But I do think I'm more like you in that I would much rather either a FaceTime or a phone call or something like that versus texting to communicate emotional things.
Agreed. I'm glad we're aligned.
Of course. All right. I'm so ready. So favorite friendship memory or memories?
Well, I feel like we have to tell, unless you're going to talk about this later, the story of when I visited Scripps or...
That was, you could do that because I had something else, but yes, go.
So picture this. Rachel, Daysha, and Dee all get accepted to Scripps College, and we all are invited for a visitation day. This is the spring of our senior year. Daysha and Dee, for some unbeknownst reason to me, get invited for a day and a half extra than my invite says. And I was like, that's odd. Why are they special? We're all from the same school. Why don't we all go together? And Dee and Daysha, again, not really mentioning potentially something specifically written in their letters about, say, diversity and inclusion of moments, say, well, Rachel, why don't you just come with us? And I was like, awesome. I too would like to be there for this. So the three of us fly over to Scripps and lo and behold, a day and a half early, and there's like no one there. And I start to notice we get like walked into these rooms. And I was like, you know, for like a California all girls university, I would have thought there'd be slightly more white people here. Like I had the thought. You know what I mean? Because it was like mostly we had some Black students, we had some Asian students, we had some Indian students, like the whole mix. And I remember thinking, like, am I the only white person? But I, again, didn't think much of it. And then we get like ushered into like this sleeping, like we're all in like sleeping bags and have like one big room or having a big like sleepover. And at this point, I'm having a blast, like chatting with everybody. And then Daysha and Dee get kind of summoned and they're like, oh, hey, come with us. We're having a small group get together. And you guys were like, oh, Rachel, come with us. And I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to come with you. You guys are my two friends. So we walk in and I suddenly realized we're going to this room, which is like a club, like a student organization like room. And we walk in and the door shuts and it's this tiny little room with maybe like 10 girls in it, 10 women. And I noticed just as the door is shutting, oh shit, this is, I think, the Black student group or like the Black like university. And at this point, I look at you, I think, with panic in my eyes of like, Daysha, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. I think I followed you too far. Like, and I remember there were two girls that were older students, and then maybe like the 8 girls that were potential students and me. And they like kind of looked at me and I looked at them and I was like, should I go? Like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, no, you can stay. And I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden it was, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I cherish this memory a bunch because I felt like it was a real opportunity to like, I don't know, I don't overtop, but they were like, here's our experience as Black students on this campus. There's a bunch of white girls here. They're all a little crazy. Some of them are going to come up and just touch your hair without asking. They're going to ask you weird questions. It's going to feel really awkward. And it was basically like a moment of seeing, oh shit, like the amount, like you need to be battle ready kind of thing. And there was an element of like the sisterhood, but also like how to deal with this. And again, I don't know. At that point, it wasn't anything that I'd really obviously needed to think about too much too. So I still view it as a real privilege to be able to have just like kind of been there. And I'm still surprised they didn't kick me out. But I remember that was one of the most uncomfortable moments of my life because I was like, this is like a private thing. I'm so sorry. Anyway, but again, and they were so gracious, I think, as well. And you guys just laughed the entire time. I remember, I think it was just like basically, and I still to this day think this was an elaborate prank, but it wasn't until the next day. The next day, it wasn't the diversity weekend anymore. They walked us into like the big room where that was the day I was supposed to actually show up. And we walk in and all of a sudden it is this massive auditorium with just seas of blonde hair, long brunette hair. And all of a sudden it was like comparatively to like this small group of maybe 40 or 50, very unique and interesting, like me to just walk into a bunch of I had a moment of just like panic, I think, as well, of like, oh, Jesus Christ, there are a bunch of blonde Barbies. Like I was just really overwhelming of everything. And it was, yeah, again, just a moment of, can you imagine walking into that room and not being able to kind of, I don't know, fit in by the way that I'd looked in general. So anyway, that was the fun story. Was that my favorite memory of our friendship? I don't know, but it's one of the more memorable.
Oh my, it wasn't a prank. I think we were both just like, yeah, like, why aren't you, come on.
Yeah,
like,
there you go.
But it was so funny because I do very vividly remember the look of panic on your face when you were just like, oh my gosh, I am the only white person here.
And I'm a rule follower. I thought at some point I had broken rules. Like it was illegal for me to like be in this like group. And I was like, I need to leave. I can only imagine how red my face was just sitting there, probably just like fight or flight panic. Yeah. So I'm glad that was entertaining for you. Dee laughed the whole time, the whole night. She was just laughing nonstop. And I was like, Dee, I'm gonna get arrested.
It just couldn't have happened to someone who is more anxious.
The only reason I went the day early was because I didn't want to, like, I think either travel alone or show up alone. Like, I wanted to go with my friends. So the fact that backfired, like, so dramatically.
Yeah. No, but I'm glad they didn't kick you out either. I think that, your ability to kind of see how we navigate whiteness and being in those spaces, like, I think that, I mean, I'm not saying all white people should do it, but I think that because you got it, I think it allowed you to experience how we experience being in white spaces.
That's actually a very true way to do, like, the level of uncomfort I felt there, right? Of just, and maybe there was two elements, one where it was like clearly a closed group and there genuinely was a feeling of exclusion, but maybe that's just it, like, all the time, and it's just like not spoken. So no, as I say, I don't know if humbling is the right word, but privilege, I don't know, I'm very happy to have had that experience. I think it helped like level set and give me an experience I wouldn't have had in any other construct.
No, yeah.
such a time.
It's so fun. I have so many favorite memories of our friendship. So, okay. I'm going to go with this one first, and then we'll see where else I go. So you want to talk about Rachel being real. So this is back in high school. We were having lunch, and Rachel had chips on her plate. And I was like eating some of the chips off of her plate, and she was like, "Don't do that." And I was just like, "Oh, come on." And I go for another chip, right?
Oh God, I don't even know what the story is.
I go for another chip, and Rachel takes my hand and fucking smashes my hand so that the chip breaks in my hand. So that I can't get the chip. And I was like, oh, word? I will never forget that. I was like, oh shit, okay, all right, bet. I'm not fucking with her food.
I'm an only child. I don't share. And when I say no, apparently it means no. So
I just couldn't believe the lengths you went. Smash that chip in my hand.
It was like, if I'm not going to enjoy it, you can't enjoy it. That's like
I've never experienced anything like that. It's the funniest. I was like, wow.
And wait, you're
man.
missing the key aspect, which is like, we didn't pay for food. Like, there was unlimited chips, probably like 4 feet away. So there was really no need for such an escalation, I'm almost sure. But, it's really clear to just lay down the law and that kind of thing. Otherwise, it just gets worse. That's my opinion.
Well, I don't think I ever took, something off your plate ever again. So
you're saying the system works? Is that what you're saying?
You made it very clear.
Mm-hmm. It's my air missile defense system. You just go whenever there's foreign attack on your plate. You're just lucky I didn't have a fork on me. I'll just say that. Like, that would be...
Oh man, that was, you want to talk about honesty. I was like, I think I was so shook. I was so shook.
I don't remember that specifically, but it sounds 100% true. And then I also would say that I can feel the anger that I would have felt in order to do that. And that still is not that far away from the surface. Like, if someone would reach for my plate after an explicit no, like, that is a level of level of aggression would come out.
You made sure that I understood that boundary firmly. So, oh my gosh, there's that one. And then I love that you would allow me to like sleep over at your house all the time. And I feel like it was after, again, I think that we got really close senior year on. And so every time that you would come home from college, I would always go and sleep over at your house for like a couple days. And oh my gosh, so Rachel and I really got into watching like TV shows together towards the end of our time in high school. And so, yeah. So we really got into watching True Blood. I think like the first season had come out our senior year of high school. And so I went over to her house during like winter break to watch the second season. And the second season was just like, it was batshit crazy. I just remember us being up at like 3 a.m. and there's like a sex cult orgy thing going on. And we're just like, and I don't think we watched True Blood again after that.
No, all I remember from that is "Suck it" or whatever it was. Do you remember? Suck it. It was such a terrible show, but I loved it. Like, that show made no sense. Because this was, was it you? I was obviously really into Twilight in high school. And this was just like the natural extension of that. But like, I was not, I don't know, my sexuality was not prepared for True Blood at that time, if that makes sense. Like, that was like multiple levels above like what I was just some weird, weird orgy stuff. And I remember, there was one we were watching, and I think we both were like, "This is too much." I think for our friendship to continue, I think we have to stop watching this together.
Yeah. Too much. But yeah, and then so Rachel grew up with 5 corgis, which is crazy. And but you always got a warm welcome when you got home. Granted, if you were the type to sneak out, those corgis would have fucked you over.
Yeah.
Because we would just be walking up to the door.
Indeed. There was, I mean, I had 2 in high school, and then we got 2 more, I think either my senior year, and then that was actually during the Scripps trip. I remember I got a call from my dad and was like, "Oh, we're adopting a 5th, or we're getting a 5th." It was like the sibling of 2 others that we'd had or something like that. So yeah, then it got to 5, which was like, when is it too many? You gotta ask yourself. I don't know if it was 5. I don't know, maybe it was 3. I'm not sure when the line was crossed. 5 was a lot.
Well, I just remember, I mean, again, and it was Becky loved, because Becky was obsessed with corgis at one point. Yeah. And so when I told her, I was like, "Oh yeah, my friend had 5 corgis." She was like, "Stop." Yeah. She had 5? Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah."
Did I mention my mother's British? Like the Queen. You should have, maybe my mother's aspiring Queen of England, I guess, to go through it. I remember also I don't know. I always thought it was very cool that all the stuff that on BuzzFeed, like that was a cool time when you were on BuzzFeed. And that was like the coolest fun fact I had, was that my friend was on BuzzFeed and that I could show, and that you kept bringing on our other friends to do these weird videos all the time. And I would just watch those and cackle. I still regret not necessarily being in one, just for postarity's sake, but also given my lack of internet presence, I am thrilled to also not be in one. So it's a tough I see it both ways.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, another friendship memory is the fact that, so I used to work for an agency and I would content produce for TikTok, and Rachel left me a comment on my first video. And that's huge because, again, Rachel doesn't fuck with the internet like that. No. She didn't even remember that she did it, but she did it.
I still am not fully sure, because that seems very unlike me. But if I did it, then again, really showing up for this friendship.
Yeah.
You know what I do? My friend is a LinkedIn influencer, of which just like fundamentally is a deeply annoying trait to like a LinkedIn influencer. But just for some reason, I guess my phone knows that we're friends. So I'll get like notifications with his face and like his posts on LinkedIn. And my only response is I will screenshot that and then text him, "Oh, this one's cool." And it gets him so upset because he's like, "Why don't you just respond on LinkedIn?" I'm like, "You don't understand. I'm not going to be commenting. I'm not going to be liking anything. I don't need a paper trail. No, thank you." No, thank you. So
that, at least I didn't get the screenshot treatment. Like, I got a direct comment. So, like, that makes me feel, I know that you said that we were an acquaintance, but, like, I know that I'm further up there. I am.
Yeah. Tier 1 acquaintance. Yep.
Okay, so what has our friendship taught you about making friends?
Interesting. I'll need to think. Well, I mean, recently I would say in the last couple of years, but that's like a transition. So I don't know if it's fully between you and I, but you're definitely one of the friends that's helped me realize. We've kind of been talking about it, but it's that like you need to water your friendships like plants. Mm-hmm. And that I think when you're in high school or you're in an environment where the people, you have proximity and they're always around, it's easy to just have friends and maintain that. But then when there is distance or things change, and especially as you grow up, you actively need to put in an effort into them. And I think that's really only something that I've realized in the last couple of years, as well, of like going through my own kind of dips and lows in life and then back up, is you realize that life, your friendships are what you make it. Like, I think there was a time where I was like, "Oh, I'm sad and I don't have friends." And that's like a very victim mentality, I think, and there's been a growth for me of realizing like, no, like you make friendships, you actively need to reach out, you get the energy back that you put into it. So I think the learning and growing into that a little bit more, and now now when I, again, you're in the group chat or you're in the end of the thing, realizing to match that energy and do what you can to, when the energy is low, like put that in yourself to also be there for other people. So I think that's also been helpful because there was a time for sure when you would reach out and I was like, why is she reaching out so much? And I didn't mean that in like, I was like, but why? Like, we're not around. Like, what does she possibly want from me? Like, what does she need to know? Like, I've given her information. Like, she knows where I live. Like, what does she want? And now just realizing like, no, like that's like,
because I care about you.
Yeah. Like, it's like basically just being kind and liking someone. Like, Rachel, don't be an asshole. So yeah, that's, I think, been a helpful thing. And again, we were talking about the consistency and safe space of still when there was moments of me just being like, but why that I could do that and then also come back from my cave after a month and be like, sorry, still alive, and not be told, Rachel, that's not cool, but not you didn't give up, I guess, on that, or it wasn't a like dismissal, but like a persistence. So I value that. I think was that the question? What do I value? No,
I think it's just, what our friendship has taught you about making friends and the process of friendship.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
that is, there you go.
Yeah.
What I have learned. And I try and take that, now too. I do that a lot more of like the proactive. Like another thing, sorry, I realized I wasn't making plans with friends. I just waited for people to make plans with me. And I think part of that, honestly, was there's an element of, am I a burden? So it was me reaching out to other people, like heaven forbid, like I wouldn't want them to have to spend time with me. So I would just sit and patiently wait. And that's for years. And then if no one reached out, I'd be like, I guess they don't want to see me. Even if they'd reached out to me every single time. And like now in hindsight, I can only imagine if that person reached out, they're like, Rachel probably doesn't care. Right. So I think rewiring that a little bit as well has been helpful.
Yeah. And then I wanted to comment on, I also think it's important to acknowledge, it's really important to start from a place of wondering and curiosity about why you're doing what you're doing. And so I do agree that friendships are what you make of them and it is about watering them. But I also think sometimes we have to ask ourselves, is the reason why I'm not interacting as much because I actually am not interested in this relationship? So, all that's to say that you're never getting rid of me. But I think that I'm just learning that for myself sometimes, that if I find myself screening or if I find myself, kind of just being like, I don't really want to go to that, or I don't really want to do that, to kind of also instigate for myself. Because then maybe it's just that I need to communicate, because that's the other thing that I'm learning that I just need in life. I want my friends to know that if I'm asking something of you, please don't people please me. Just just let me know. Just be like, I can't do it today, or I'm really tired, or whatever. Like, just be real with me. Don't avoid me.
Fair enough. I think that's an interesting nuance. It's also I don't know if you had that similarly in, I don't know, high school or college, but like I think it's something true that your best friends from college are the people that were on your floor freshman year, kind of thing. Like, or I don't know if that was true for you or if you had other groups, but for me, if some of my best friends are the people that were literally in the 10 rooms closest to me. So if you view it that way, you could have put me on any floor and those would have been my friends, right? So there was an element of you're just friends with the people who are there and you put up with it, or you wait for them to reach out, and that is what friendship is. And now there's been a bit of a transition of exactly that, like what selectiveness, like who do I have the energy that I want to proactively reach out to? And those are the friendships to really strengthen, versus previously it was I would just wait for someone else and then whoever reached out, that's who I'd spend time with. So it was a much more passive, I think, socialization. And I've gotten to a place where I'm really starting to get more energy and joy and happiness out of friendships, because it's more, you pick the ones that bring you happiness, that make you feel fulfilled, that challenge you, whatever it is, blah, 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 instead of just like waiting for the people that reach out. I don't know, but.
No, totally. And I find so there was something so relatable about you saying that, because I think I see it with people all the time where they will be like, oh my gosh, like people are contacting me, they're trying to make plans with me, oh no. But then when they're in a hard place and they're just like, oh, but I don't have any friends, Like, I don't have any. And it's just like, I just find it so fascinating the way in which we do that. And I don't know if that's a human thing, if it's an American cultural thing, but I have seen that with people where they will say like, oh my gosh, like I don't have any friends. But then it's like someone was calling you like 20 times and you didn't answer.
Yeah, it's a level of, I think, vulnerability that people don't really get. And I don't know. For me, it's like I try to do that work ahead of time now so that when you need it, you already feel ready to use the bridge that you've built kind of thing. Versus like if you're not used to it or you're just passive in all your relationships and you put up with it, it might feel to you like a very isolating, lonely thing when you do need help and you don't know who to talk to. Because if your relationships were just based on whoever happened to text you that week to like do a random activity that you didn't care to do, right? Like that doesn't feel like the bond. So for me at least, pushing myself to actively reach out and make connections, that is me then getting in the habit of then when I need something else or emotional support that I also can do that. But yeah, it's a really weird thing to feel like, oh, I'm all alone when you have a list of people who have actively been asking how you're doing. It's a weird self.
No, it's very fascinating and I think very relatable. So, all right, anything you're nervous about for the future of our friendship?
I don't think, I think it'll be weird. I don't know, 30s to 40s, I have a suspicion is a big change. This is based on the happiness graphs that I stock, which show that like on average, people's happiness grows up until, I think it either peaks in the late 20s or it peaks in like the mid 30s. So like late 20s to 30s are usually when people are happiest. And then it takes a big dip in the 40s and then even into the early 50s. And then it starts to grow, but it never fully recovers to where it was in the 20s, 30s. And I think the big theory for that is those 40s or 50s are when you are both needing to care for your like usually aging parents and your aging or your growing kids. And it puts a lot of stress on that one. What is it? The sandwich generation that has to be the provider for both halves.
Yeah.
I mean, that's coming up. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's just going to be challenging on any kind of friendship because it basically dynamics change. I mean, I say the single, right? Like, so heaven forbid I get into a relationship and start.
But listen, weren't we just talking about how you might have found your person? Okay, like you could go.
Well, we can't say it here because then it's been 2 dates. Like that's.
I'm just saying, you might not be single for very long.
Just give me hope that like it is possible. I think it's just online dating, man. It's the lack of question asking. So maybe I should just like tell them to pretend that like I'm a guest on their podcast and then see. Like, I think that might be the trick.
But I just think that's a gender thing. I just don't think enough men were taught to actually show interest in who they're trying to be with.
I think, I have a metaphor. Did I tell you my rock metaphor for this? Was it? No. So this is how I think the different species of gender communicate. I think, like, imagine everyone are like kids with like their little rock collection of all their favorite rocks that they found throughout their journeys. The way men communicate is one of them will pick their favorite rock out of their bag and just put it on the table and be like, look at my rock. And then the other guy will be like, oh, cool. And then they'll go into their bag, pick out their favorite rock and just put it on the table. And they'll just keep going back and forth, like putting rocks on the table. But that's it. Like, that's the only thing. And then at the end of the day, they're like, okay. And they put their rocks back. And that's the exchange. And they've never really discussed. Women take a rock out of their bag and be like, this is my favorite. I really like it. And then the other woman will go, oh my God, it's beautiful. Turn it over. What looks over there? And you will assess the rock together. And you will both determine how beautiful it is. And then you'll say, well, do you have a rock? And then the other woman will pull their rock out and you will analyze the rock. And that is how women communicate. And it is slow and it is methodical. And you go into detail about all of the benefits of these different rocks. So then the thing is, when you try to communicate with a man and they just whip out a rock and put it on the table, they don't ask you for your rock. You then assess it and they're thrilled because no one's ever asked them about a rock before, right? So they feel very intense. And then you wait for them to ask to see one of your rocks and they never do. They never ask. And then all of a sudden you spent 2 hours talking about every single rock that they have and they didn't even know that you started a collection. And it's very rude. And all they need to do is just, do you have a rock? That's it. Anyway, Rachel, so dating's going great.
Taking me to church because, no notes. That was beautiful.
I'm going to write a book. Then I'll come back.
Yeah. And I'll be like, Rachel, the author.
The author. Sorry, what was the question? Because I just needed to get that out.
No, yeah, I felt it. I did, and I'm glad that I could make space for it and validate it because it was real. It was anything you're nervous about for the future.
Oh God, yeah. I didn't answer that at all. Did I? No, going into the 40s, life,
Yeah.
life changing, that being hard, and just making sure that we can, support each other through it, or just get through it. It'll be different, but I think that's
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And it's very interesting in the research that I've done and like all the books that I've read that I think that I agree that that period of time, like when people or when women in particular get spouses and they get kids and, you know, and then aging parents, that there was a lot of strain. And then also like, and this could be different for Europeans, but I think that in America, like we are taught to prioritize every other relationship but friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I, again, love that I'm doing this so that I just feel more active in that. Like, I don't want that to happen to my friends. And I want to figure out ways to maintain connection because, you know, I've also realized that like, I think I'm learning to accept that my romantic partner just can't be everything to me. He cannot provide everything to me, nor should he. And I think that that's where a lot of people get into a lot of strain in their romantic relationships because they're trying to make the romantic my rude ass computer. It's on do not disturb and it still does that shit. But yeah, I think that they try to make that person be everything. And it's just like, you know, like you said, especially if you're in a heterosexual relationship, he was taught to socialize in a very different way. And so like, that's going to take time for him to get to that place to where he's interested in looking at your rock collection. That doesn't mean that you have to go without. That's why you have friends. So yeah.
Reach. That's also true. Also, fun little factoid, which I think we've also talked about, that I think over 60, the happiest demographic are single women. And the second happiest is married men. So, and then like the least happy is married women. Or something like that. Because like women just like, at least, I mean, generations are changing, etc. Dynamics are changing. So God knows what'll happen now. But in relationships, it is still set up to support usually the man. And then single women are like happiest, they live longer, they have their friendships that actually support them, and that's really the tight-knit community. So yeah, female friendships are the most important thing, I think.
So should we become married women, we don't want to be in that last bracket. You know, we want to be just as happy as the single ladies.
No. I think my bar now, by the way, is they need to ask me questions and I need to feel like they have understood my rock collection to at least a good enough extent. That's it. Otherwise, I don't have time for it.
I love that. Just the bare minimum. Ask me about my rock collection.
Ask me about my rock.
Rachel, I loved this so much. You did so amazingly well. Yeah, you were amazing. So we do 2 things to close out.
Oh God, here it is. I don't have social media. Don't try to find me.
Okay, well then, so we have one thing that we're going to do to close out because Rachel said, y'all not getting my information. So we play a game called Scroll Double Tap DM. Yes. And so I thought it would be fitting for us to do Twilight because that was a connection point for us.
Hell yeah.
So I kind of dropped off by the 4th book. So really, I mean, I think, I don't know why. I just like, because I don't even think because the 4th installment is like 2 books, right?
No, it's 1 book, 2 movies, because that was the time where like Hunger Games, Harry Potter, and Twilight all did the double header for the final book just to ooze money.
Got it. But yeah, I don't think I read or maybe I did read the last book, but I didn't see the last movie. Either way, we'll do Twilight, New Moon, and Eclipse.
Okay, easy. Twilight would be the DM. New Moon would be the scroll, and Eclipse would be the double tap. And I have reasons.
Okay.
Here's why. Twilight is the OG. It's the original. You wanna DM it 100%. It's got the traditional ridiculous love story of falling in love with a guy that's 100 years older than you. That did screw me up when I dated then a guy 14 years older than me and ruined me for a couple of years. But thanks for that, Twilight. But so that's the one. that's just like really the heart and soul, right? But it's really kiddie. There's no like the most they do is kiss. New Moon sucked. All right, he's gone the entire time. It's just baseline like shit communication that nobody really has any time for, and the fact that this mf'er is gonna go off himself and commit suicide because he refused to be able to open up and communicate to this girl. It's just total BS. Don't like it. Don't like the Jacob interactions. Awful. So that totally scroll away. And then the final one, the reason why that is the heart / the sex one is because you actually start to get some sexual chemistry going on. And there's like she's actually like, I want to do you. And also like Jacob is like, oh, I want to do you. So there's like a little bit of like sensuality happening there. And there's actual like tension and like intrigue. And the plot's actually a lot better. And all the main characters are actually there. So yes, that's it. And I think that's a perfect question. And I think I answered that incredibly well. So
I mean, I think it's fair. I honestly think, so I was having a hard time. I agree with your scroll. New Moon sucked. I was like, I don't even know if there's one that I want to like, you know? Not that like, I mean, it was that I didn't know if there was one I wanted to DM. That's what it was.
Oh, gee, the thing that started it all.
I know. So, but hearing your response, I was like, okay, yeah, that's fair. I think I would DM Twilight and I would double tap Eclipse. Yeah, because I kind of forgot that things get really like spicy in Eclipse.
Yeah, they do. There's a tense scene where there's a lot of sexual chemistry going on. Faux show.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, you explained it very well. You convinced me. So there we go.
Thank you so much. I take that as a compliment. I'm really good at this.
This is so fun. I love this so much.
Don't look for me on social media. This is the main takeaway. You will not find me. I'm actually, you know what I'm doing is I'm doing this as a test of my security defenses. Like if anyone, actually people will probably be able to, actually no one should be, you know what? Let's see what happens. You can cut this. Don't try and find me on social media.
Didn't I tell y'all Rachel is a real one, okay? But I will say that I also think she's a great example that it's possible to be real and not rude. Okay, well, she has her moments of being rude, like when she broke that chip in my hand. #we'll never forget. But I also think Rachel is someone who is really good at holding other people's honesty just as she is about giving it out. Like, you know that saying, if you're going to dish it, you should be able to take it. And I think that Rachel really embodies that. And so as I was reflecting on this conversation and what our relationship has taught me about friendship, I think our relationship is such a great reminder of what establishing a safe space can really do for a friendship, even when there's periods of distance or disconnection. When we go back to the observe and reserve phrase that I talked about at the top of the episode, I think that's why I wasn't offended when she initially said that I and the other girls weren't in her ring 1 tier at the time, because I think I knew deep down that she would not be this honest unless it was coming from a place of love and trust. Because real talk, I only think we feel capable of being honest with people that we feel safe with. I think the people that we give the cutesy, perfect, I love you, girl, you know, those types of answers to can be, and not always, but sometimes can actually be more exemplary of a level of discomfort that we're experiencing in the relationship, but that we don't feel safe to voice. Because never forget that people are complex, okay? People are annoying, people are rude, even the people we know, like, and trust. And so if we are really seeing and holding our friend in the totality of their emotions and their complexity and their humanness, then it's like, of course there are going to be times where things get uncomfortable because sometimes our friends aren't being shit and they need to be told, or, you know, sometimes as humans, we just don't necessarily know how to phrase things in the right way. But again, being honest with your friend doesn't always have to be soul draining or anxiety inducing. And in a lot of ways, that honesty, even when it's uncomfy to receive, it can actually be that person letting you know how much they feel safe with you. And I personally think that should matter more than sweet nothings. You feel me? And honestly, as I continue to sit here and reflect, Rachel, I just need you to know that I actually think you being honest with us in that moment, I think that was such a brave thing to do. I think that was I just think there's so much beauty in you being honest with us in that way, because I just feel like sometimes we forget what the point of a close relationship is, and that is intimacy, that is closeness, and that's just not something that can be faked, you know? And so if you're not feeling it, the only way to actually move towards building that intimacy is being honest and saying that you're not there. But it's not like Rachel was saying that she never wanted to be there with us. It's that she just didn't feel it in that moment. And because of that, we do clown her incessantly. But I hope she knows that the clowning is, at least on my part, is coming from a place of love, and that I respect so much her honesty in that moment. I really do. Because truly, what is the point of all of this? What is the point of having a relationship if you can't be honest about where you're at and where you think the intimacy is at? And yeah, so Rachel, I'm still gonna clown you for the rest of your life, but I love you, and I am in awe of your honesty. I think it was very beautiful. And a great reminder of the power of yet, because again, Rachel has ambitions to put us in her tier 1 friendship, right? And it's just about when the time comes. So power of yet. Just because a relationship is not where you would like it to be doesn't mean that you can't get there with a little hard work. As always, if you have thoughts, feelings, questions, or revelations that you want to share with me, or you want to add to the conversation, make sure you leave us a comment wherever you are listening. Or you can screenshot the episode and tag me on social media with your thoughts, and you can join the Real Talk Friend Therapy Facebook group to engage there. All right, besties, I'll catch you next time. Your girl is out. Loving Real Talk Friend Therapy? Of course you are. So don't forget to show us some love with a 5-star review wherever you are listening, and to join our free Facebook group to chat, engage, and maybe even make a new friend, okay? See you inside.